Recording on this bitch.
What's up, man?
What up? What up?
Quarantine 7.
Number 7, man. Shit, dude. I wonder what we're gonna get up to. Fucking like 2 years from now, it's gonna be like quarantine 127. I'm actually gonna have a beard the size of yours.
My shit's all trimmed up now, man. I cleaned all my shit
did
up.
trim it up. I don't know, man. I don't know if it'll just keep growing or if it's gonna hit its max and then just stop and get itchy. That's what I'm waiting for. I'm like, fuck.
See, like when my shit's shaved down, like granted I haven't had a face without a beard on it in 5 years, but
right.
Like when I did shave it down previous to that, like it was the first few days it would be itchy when it was trying to grow out, and then once it gets out, it never bothers me.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I imagine there's the point where it's like, okay, it's growing out here. You know what I'm saying? Like away from your face, so you're not actually fucking. it's not gonna get any. I'm not gonna grow any more hairs out of my face. It's just the ones that are already there are gonna get longer.
Yeah. So that's
how hair growth works.
Yeah, that is how hair growth works. So.
What were you gonna say?
I don't even remember, man.
All right, cool.
Words, man. So I know in my daily life, dude, the kiddo took a spill today, man, and I was so fucking furious. Like he's taken like a couple falls since this fucking quarantine shit started, and it's always on my watch. Like, but you know, like. It's not like lack of me being around or like paying attention. It is literally like we're outside, like he's playing, he's just getting along with shit, and then all of a sudden he's just like, boom, man down.
Man down.
Like, dude, his lip was bleeding and his nose was bleeding and shit. And it was just like,
oh dude.
Yeah.
He hit it hard. So, dude, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I'm pretty paranoid about him falling and stuff. Or more than anything, now he's just getting into everything. So I'm always kind of watching him, like, because I haven't fully childproofed the place to the point where I'd like. But you can turn your head for 2 seconds, and that's when he goes down. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't. It's impossible. It's not healthy if you sit there and just stare at your kid for fucking 24 hours, dude. Like, you got to be able to have some trust, and you know what I mean? And you got to let him fall down, is what everybody keeps saying. You know, whatever.
Yeah, well, both of his falls have been literally like in the backyard on our like back patio. Like,
not in the grass, on the concrete.
Yeah, like, and like today, like, I mean, literally he was like in a winter fucking jacket, all puffy and shit. Like, and literally
I can't put my arms down.
Like when he falls, man, like when he slides off the couch and does anything, man, there's like zero fucking self-preservation. It's just like head first. Like, it's like, dude, can you get a hand up? Like a reactionary.
He's like, I was blocking it with my face.
I'm just like, oh my God. Like, and he cried and cried for like 5 minutes. I like, you know, wife was trying to calm him down, like, you know, getting him cleaned up. And then as soon as like I picked him up, he calmed down, like, you know, after a couple minutes. And then he was pissed that we weren't going back outside. I'm like, dude, you have burned that bridge to me. That bridge is
You're
gone.
cut off, dude. Yeah. Well, one, dude, it's cold right now. Like, I'm like, this is stupid as hell. So my kid wanted to go in the stroller today. He's never asked. He wanted to sit in the stroller and me to go for a walk. And I'm like, damn it. Like, it's cold as hell.
Dude, my kid now, he walks, like, he'll go in the other room and grab my shoes and literally walk them over to me and put them down next to my feet.
Let's go.
He's like, come on, dude, let's get it going.
Yeah, my dude will bring the jacket over, and I'm like, dude, they're getting so smart, it's crazy as hell. Like, I'm having, like, conversations with this kid because I'm around him every day. So I find myself talking to him like you with less curse words, and he's responding like in his way, you know what I'm saying? But I'm like, well, he's understanding shit. I'm going, oh damn, like he's like, this is going way too fast. Because before, like, you know, they're at daycare all day, and so then you spend, well, I would come home at like 7, and then dude was going to sleep in 2 hours. It sucked, you know what I mean? But now when I'm with him all day, I'm like, oh yeah, this is kind of cool because blessing in disguise, I get to actually enjoy this part, you know what I'm saying? So he's growing quick.
Yeah,
and your
man.
dude is too. I watch the videos and shit, and I'm like, oh man, yeah, he's that's
Dude,
crazy.
Like, your kid, like, not to take us on this weird like turn, but like your kid has got like some language, like some serious language skills and like, you know, things like that. Like my kid can tell you everything on his mind with a facial expression. Like like he can communicate. Like, dude, I came around the corner on him today, like, and he was playing in the hallway. And he heard me coming, and he mean mugged the fuck out of me, like, bitch, stay the fuck away. Like, he's like, I'm good. And I was just like, all right, man.
And that's amazing because you know him so well that it just a straight up look.
Oh yeah.
Your kid does have facial expressions. That video where you had him where he was eating breakfast with the sunglasses on, I'm like, dude, that was amazing.
Yeah, man.
He just looking at you like, you're like, is it good? And he looked, he just kind of like,
yeah,
you know it's fucking good. You see what I'm doing.
Yeah, man, it's great, dude. It literally is, like, for as much as I complain about being in this fucking quarantine and shit, like working on week 6 in fucking quarantine, like, dude, there is really like no.
Yeah.
The only shitty part of quarantine for me is like obviously the same thing that's shitty for everybody, like the hindrance to life, like not being able to go see family and friends, like not being able to go over and do the podcast, things like that. We're still doing the podcast, we're doing it this way, but like not getting to see my friends, like, you know, not getting to see family, but dude, the benefit of being able to spend time with Ashley and Knox every fucking day, like, dude, I mean, I didn't have the luxury of just being able to pop up. Even when, you know, I had work at home days, I couldn't pop upstairs and see my family. Now I can fucking, I'm like, oh, I got 15 minutes between this and that. Like, this meeting's not going off. Like, I can run upstairs and, you know, hang out.
It's dope. It is. I mean, I hate that my wife's working for that because that makes me a little bit jealous. But for me, the quarantine, this whole thing is it's just well, obviously, you know, and I'm not going to get into it, but the loss of lives, you know what I'm saying? And that looming sort of, oh, Jesus, what's going to happen next? What's around the next turn? How crazy are people going to fucking get? Like, that's the only thing that keeps me, like, kind of like, oh, this is still fucking scary. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like that kind of shit. But being home, I'm cool with being home. You said it last episode, like being stuck in the house doesn't bother me. There's plenty of shit to do, and honestly, all I have time for is make sure that my kid doesn't fall down too much. I mean,
and I'm failing at that horribly, apparently.
But dude, no, you're good, man. They're gonna fall. Shit, you didn't have to go to the hospital, so you're straight.
Oh, fuck, man.
Well, as much as I love him, and this is a good segue. It's been a while. So the episode that I'm going to do tonight, I meticulously wrote because there was a lot to it, a lot of different happenings, and so I wrote. Well, now we're potty training this little wonderful human being running around my house naked, and my book's on the coffee table, and I hear. This fucking kid pissed on my notebook, straight up on my fucking notebook, on the page that's open, ink just like in the movies. So I'm like, dude, how, like, there's no way that this is actually happening. And I didn't have time to rewrite it, but luckily I kind of got most of it up here and I've got sources on my phone. But I was like, dude, I love you, but I swear to God, sometimes, like, you can't train somebody to not do that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that shit's just gonna happen.
Yeah,
so
man. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. What? No. I'm just bullshit. What?
I was gonna say, man, there's been a handful of things where I'm like, I don't know how to parent this. Like when my kid comes into the bathroom when I'm in the middle of a shit and he's like, pick me up. Like I don't know how to. Yeah, like I don't know how to parent that. Like, there's certain things that, like, I don't care how many books you've read. Like, you know.
Dude, yeah, I mean, like, well, my kid shit in the tub. If you missed that episode, we talked about shitting in our children for about 15 minutes. But I was like, well, other than I know not to take baths if he hasn't shit in the past hour. You know what I'm saying? Like, but there's no way that you can't discipline them for doing that. They didn't do anything wrong. It's just like, fuck, you know. Like, I want to smack a kid, but he's a little too young.
I feel like we are a long way off the potty training, so and my son's only a week younger than yours, so dude.
Clearly we're not ready for it, and we're jumping the gun a little bit. Clearly,
I guess, man.
It ain't working, dude. We bought we were given one of the little mini potties that they just sit in the middle of the floor, which if he takes the shit in that's going to be the grossest thing in the world. And then we decided to buy the one, because he wasn't having that just fits over the normal toilet. And we sit him on that every time he like pisses or whatever, but he's scared of it. And I'm like, so he's not ready for it. Let's put it that way. We're like forcing this shit on the kid. So don't feel bad that your little dude ain't ready, because neither is mine.
I was like, dude, I don't know. I don't think we're ready to tackle potty training mid quarantine. Like, we got enough stress, man. I'm not trying to add.
Right. Well,
it's like I'm not taking up learning ancient Aramaic or anything. Like,
yeah, exactly. Hey, we'll figure it out. But yeah, there's no rush. I have tried to.
If you guys want more parenting tips from our two dumbasses,
there it is. Hit us up on our social media. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at
Based on True Events Podcast.
Right on. There is a little mini delay, because I'm like at, and then 2 seconds go by, and then or on the Twitter at
Podcast BOTE, BOTE.
Right on. We got a YouTube channel that's rocking, which is
Based on True Events Podcast BOTE.
Hells yeah. If you don't do the social medias or you don't fuck with it, you can hit us up on the Gmail at
Based on True Events Podcast at gmail.com.
There it is. Shit, what we got going on?
We got Rock the Boat.
We still got the Rock the Boat. We still so send us your suggestions. Because we will still pick our favorite for Rock the Boat. That competition will go on every month until we say otherwise, I guess. But we want you to vote. I need to post it more. I think I've only posted it once or twice. But, vote on the topic you want us to do. This was Shep's, baby, and I loved it. So we're doing it.
Yep. So not only are you sending us suggestions, we then take your suggestions and post them online to be voted upon by the mass audience. And then we take the top 2 contenders and make those into episodes. So it's really as much your podcast as it is ours at this point. So if you want to hear us talk about certain subjects, hit us up and we will get them out there, man.
Yeah, damn right. And honestly, if it's something that we really like and they don't vote for it, if you guys don't vote for it, we're still gonna fucking do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it just won't be done first. You know what I mean? Because we want to do what you guys want to fucking hear, obviously.
Right.
But there's definitely gonna be a few.
We're also selfish as fuck, so occasionally we do enjoy doing our own fucking thing.
Yeah,
doing our own
exactly
thing.
right. Kind of like I'm about to do. This was not a suggestion, I don't think. I feel like this came up somewhere, and either it was you were sending me posts or subject matter, or I don't remember if it was a rabbit hole. So I don't remember how I got here, but I've been holding on to them for a while, this topic. Before I jump in, I think we hit all the plugs, right? I don't want to skip anything. I think we're good.
I wrote for BOTE. Our field trip episode to Waverly is coming whenever quarantine is lifted, and either one of us feel like we're safe enough to go the fuck out of our homes.
Right.
Suggest and vote on suggestions, man. That's it.
Yeah, man. And hit us up on Rock the Boat, which is our Facebook group. You don't have to only suggest, man. We like comments about topics that we've done. By the way, fucking Andrew, dude, not Andy, but I don't know if you saw this. You were giving me shit last week, which I'll get into. Your episode was phenomenal, but you were giving me shit because I didn't know that a lamplighter was an actual profession. Well, this dude chimed in and gave me more shit. I don't know if you saw that. I was like,
no, I didn't see it, man.
He made a comment about he was a great lamplighter or something. I was like, this motherfucker. So, Andrew, dude, I'm going to butcher your last name. I want to say it's like Warner or something. I'll have to look at it. My apologies if I fucked that up. But you reached out to us a while back, man, and you've been a faithful listener, and you always comment and like shit, so appreciate it, dude.
That is Andy. Andrew
no.
is Andy. Yeah, Andrew is Andy.
What's Andrew's last name?
Wayner.
Can we say that? Is that who made the comment?
Yeah, bro.
Well, you didn't read it. I don't know if it. I feel like it's a different Andrew. Maybe I'm confusing the two, but I feel like it's a different Andrew. If it's not, then Andy, keep doing what you normally do, motherfucker. Talk shit and interact because we love it. But yeah. I thought that when I was responding, I totally thought that it was somebody different, but it could have just been a brain fart on my end. So I'll claim it. Quarantine's doing it. I'm fucking losing my mind.
Before we get into this episode, I did want to say that I'm extremely pleased, and a big thank you to everyone who has appreciated the episode that we just released, the Robert Smalls episode.
Hell yeah!
That was a really that was a fun episode to do. It was a needed episode for me to get out. It was very cathartic for me to get out, and I really appreciate the love and response that we've already gotten. It's been out like fucking 2 days. So
yeah, dude, absolutely. That's kind of where I was going to go. Is that was such a positive all around episode that we're not used to here on the Boat Show, because usually there's some sort of twist or something fucking horrible in almost every episode, because I mean, look what we're covering. But so it was definitely refreshing, and I literally was done. I went upstairs and I was like, man, all right, I don't have to, like, I'm cool dwelling on it. I've thought about it, and I've actually talked about it with some other friends, and somebody commented who had actually written a book, you know. I'm like, this is phenomenal, you know. So I loved that you did that episode. So as usual, you know, I'm going to bring us back down into the fucking dark depths of soul-crushing topics this evening. Oh shit. So yeah, man, I'm gonna jump into it, and I apologize because I did not want to, especially doing the videos like this, I didn't want to sit here and read, but I'm gonna try to do as little reading as possible. But I have a feeling I'm gonna be, because I'm gonna fuck up the chronological order of a lot of this if I don't. So apologies ahead of time. Blame the kid with fucking a piss problem. So my topic this evening is called, his alias or whatever the topic is called, The Beast of Jersey. Are you familiar with that at all? I mentioned it to you once, but do you remember, that wasn't a suggestion, or you didn't send me. I can't remember where it stemmed this.
Dude, if it was a suggestion that's from 4 months ago.
Well, yeah, at least, yeah.
I am lightly familiar with this story, and in the fact that I know the basic premise of who this guy is and X, Y, and Z. I don't know I definitely don't know the story from front to back. So I'm here to put my feet up and watch you stumble through your notes.
Well, since I'm reading, I will stumble. You've seen this many times. Fucking A. So, all right. I took a lot of notes. Well, I went to a bunch of different websites, but honestly, there's not a ton out on this dude. Like a lot of repetitive stuff, but Wiki, for example, you know, I try not to do too much Wikipedia, but I did go and search there. It was the shortest Wikipedia page on a topic that I think I've done to date. And I was like, interesting. So I ended up getting most of this stuff, and I'm going to read a lot here from the True Crime Enthusiast .co.uk. So one tends to picture the Channel Island of Jersey when one tends to. Do you know Jersey, by the way? Obviously, this is not New Jersey for those that are listening, and I don't know if you knew that. When I first heard the topic, I thought they were saying New Jersey, but it's Jersey, which is a channel. Do you know what you're good with geography? Do you know exactly where that is?
No fucking idea where this place is.
All right. So when one tends to picture the Channel Island of Jersey, the first thing off the top of the head used to be that it was the setting for an 80s TV show called Burger Act, some shit, I don't know. Or how the island was German occupied during the Second World War. Hey, do me a favor. Well, you probably can't do that because you're on your phone.
What?
I actually want to know the exact location of it here. I'll tell you in 2 seconds. Sorry. Off the cuff here. Jersey location, because you always like locale. So let's see here. Jersey, continent Europe, St. Helier area. It's an island. Well, that's an actual.
It's one of the main questions that comes up is it part of the United Kingdom?
Yeah.
It's not big. It's only 118 kilometers, which basically 45 square feet or 45 square miles.
Yeah. So it says that it's officially the bailiwick of Jersey.
Yeah.
It's a British crown dependency located near the coast of Normandy, France. It is the second closest of the Channel Islands to France after Alderney. So just
cool.
Not that it really mattered, but I figured at some point you were going to ask me like where exactly, because they bring up an accent, and I wasn't going to have the answer, so I'm covering my ass.
Well, but my other thing is that I literally going into this episode thought that this was in New Jersey, so
I did at the beginning. Before I started digging to it, and I was like, immediately I go, wow, completely wrong, which is possibly because it's such a small location, obviously not in America, that we're not familiar, you know? Yeah. So, but there was not, getting back into it, there wasn't a ton of information on this guy. I mean, comparatively. So let's see, a lot of people thought of those that did know Jersey, apparently, there was an old TV show in the 80s, or the fact that the Germans occupied it in the Second World War. Second World War. More recently, however, it may be the horrific allegations of physical and sexual child abuse that stretch back for many years. And that concern a former children's home on the island. It's called Hot de la Garenne. I went and looked at this. It was an old children's school. They were trying to tie this guy into the school, but yeah, I know. You're looking at me because of the awesome pronunciation.
No, I'm looking at you because like the topic in general. I'm like, oh, here we go, boys. Here we go again, folks. Well, these allegations have led to Jersey police recording claims of abuse from more than 100 people who have recounted tales of physical and sexual assaults they had suffered both at the home and at the hands of people connected with the home. So sounds like one of the Dozier schools for boys in Jersey, basically. Even famous names such as the notorious pedophile Jimmy Savile. I have no idea who that is, but I don't know notorious pedophiles either. So, and the late actor Wilfred Bramall have been posthumously accused of attacks on people there in decades gone by. Interesting. The allegations in the ongoing inquiry are horrific enough, but are not the first such evil to have blighted the island of Jersey. So the only information I found about Jersey was that bit where they basically just said it's got a horrific history of pedophilia and child abuse. Sweet.
Lovely place to live, apparently. Yeah. The reign of terror began for islanders in 1957. In November, a 29-year-old nurse waiting for a bus in the Mont-Talet in a specific area was attacked by a man wearing some kind of covering over his face and affecting an Irish accent. Let's see, she was dragged into a field and sexually assaulted. She was quite severely injured and left with wounds that needed many stitches. The following year, in March, a 20-year-old woman walking home from a bus stop was attacked in the parish of Trinity and had a rope put around her neck. She, too, in what was to become a signature of the attacker, was dragged into a field and raped. Then, in July that year, a 31-year-old woman, again walking home from a bus stop, was attacked in what was now the signature fashion of the offender: rope around the neck, dragged into a field, rape, or indecently or assaulted. The same happened to a young girl walking home in the parish in August 1959, and to a 28-year-old woman attacked in the parish in October 1959. The latter, although assaulted by the man, was able to fight him off quickly enough for him to flee startled. The former was not so lucky. Obviously, that's his MO, the rope, the drag. Detectives noticed several reoccurring themes throughout each description of the attacker given by each victim, and when pooled, this led them to believe that they were all committed by the same man, a serial killer, obviously. Each victim agreed that the man was aged about early to mid 40s.
Wait, you call him a serial killer? Is he killing anyone?
Well, no. So actually, the serial rapist. Yeah, serial rapist. Yeah. Although that last bit there, I feel like he did kill. Assaulted by the man, was able to fight him off. No, okay, so I think he did kill someone, but in that, no, only one of them was able to fight him off, and obviously was not sexually assaulted. The other were not so lucky, is what they're saying. Right. So yeah, that's fair. The serial rapist. Detectives noticed several reoccurring themes. Okay, no, I'm sorry. Let me jump way ahead. I think it's so weird that he was using a fake Irish accent.
No, man, I thought about that when you said it. I think that is not this weird, but like, unless you're in England or in Ireland, like, and you're trying to disguise your voice, if you can do an accent from another country, what, like,
yeah, I guess that's true.
Like, yeah. And that way, you like, when you're just generally talking, you know, people aren't going to be like, well, that's the dude's voice. Like, you know.
You're saying smart. Yeah.
I don't know if it's smart. I would have never thought of it until you said that.
Yeah, okay.
The only reason
obviously he's disguising himself, so I guess it's only weird that it's Irish because of where we live, but technically, you know what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't dare try to do an Irish accent because everybody be like, "It's the fuck, I can't understand you, dude."
Yeah,
this is awful.
So the only reason I even kind of thought about that idea is just because I'm like, oh, okay, so this is just off the coast of France. That Western European area, like, it makes sense. Like, especially if it's part of your disguise,
right.
It's to, if you're using that to kind of throw people off your scent, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, they did a lot of the articles, and I think I mentioned it later. They say he was very meticulous. He was intelligent, so clearly he was, it was just another disguise. And you're right. If you talk to somebody normally and you don't have an Irish accent, they're not going to be able to peg you for, you don't sound familiar.
Yeah.
But he was 5'6". The Irish accent. Some of the victims described the attacker as wearing a rope or a cord around his waist, and he often restrained the victim by tying their hands together. All of them described the attacker as smelling musty. Coupled together with the pattern of placing a rope around the victim's neck and using the location of a field for the assault, detectives suspended a serial attacker who became known as the Beast of Jersey. In trigger warning, folks, in 1960, the attacker added sinister twists to his modus operandi. I'm not going to try to read this word for word. He started to attack indoors. He also changed his preference of victim. And the attacks increased in both frequency and ferocity. Ferocity. It's ferocious. They became more ferocious.
Ferocity.
Ferocity. In the early hours of Valentine's Day, 1960, a 12-year-old boy asleep at home in the region of Grand Bow again, sorry if I'm butchering the pronunciation, was awoken by a man who had climbed through his bedroom window. The boy had a rope placed around his neck and was then led outside and assaulted. Then the following month, a 25-year-old woman walking to a bus stop was offered a lift in a Rover car by a man claiming to be a doctor on his way to pick up his wife. She accepted, and during the journey noticed him wearing a cap, a duffel coat, and gloves, but could not make out his features due to the darkness. He drove the car.
Let me interject. I'm sorry. I'll quit stopping you, but does...
Yeah. Right.
So the guy that did all this, was he a doctor?
No.
Okay. I was like, well, fucking problem solved. Like, how hard was this detective work? But all right, sorry.
Oh, right.
I was like,
He said he was a doctor that time, but no, okay. He was not a doctor. Not that I read, but no, I don't believe so. Noticed him wearing a cat duffel coat, could make out due to the dark. He drove the car into a field and overpowered the woman, punching her, threatening to kill her and tying her hands behind her head. She was then dragged out into the field and raped, then placed back into the car and driven away. However, she managed to escape from the vehicle and scream for help, but the attacker managed to get away. So he put her back in the car, and then she freaked out, and then he dipped. So I just got finished saying that people said he was intelligent, but I'm not trying to, I'm not pulling for him. So I'm glad she got away, but I'm just saying.
Well, why put her back in the car?
That's what I mean. I don't know that. I don't understand that move.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I was just curious.
No. Yeah. That's why I was like, I don't really understand that.
Yeah.
In March 1960, a 43-year-old mother and a 14-year-old daughter in a fairly isolated college in the St. Martin Parish underwent a horrific experience. The mother was awoken at about 12:30 a.m. by the telephone ringing downstairs. She went down to answer it, but when she lifted the receiver, heard nothing but a click and then the dial tone. She went back to bed, but was awakened about an hour later by a sound downstairs. She started downstairs to investigate, but as she reached the bottom of the staircase, the lights abruptly went out and she heard someone in the living room moving about. In the dark, she made for the telephone to call for the police, but the phone lines had been wrenched out. Then she was confronted by the figure of a man who grabbed her and demanded money. He was very rough with her and threatened to kill her, but left the woman immediately when he heard the daughter coming down to investigate the commotion. The woman took the chance to flee and raised the alarm at a nearby farmhouse, and upon returning to the cottage, found her daughter. She was still alive, but had been horrifically raped in a now familiar signature. I know, dude. When I was reading these, I can't imagine. The mother, maybe she thought the daughter was sleeping. I'm assuming you're being pissed at the mom that she just left the daughter, right?
Yeah, dude. Who the fuck? Grab your kid. Take him with you. What the fuck? Safety in numbers, man.
Well, he's there with the mom, and then the daughter starts coming down the stairs. He goes to the daughter. The mom dips. Did she know we don't know if she heard the daughter, but even if she did or didn't hear the daughter, if the guy starts going upstairs, your daughter's asleep there. Guess what? You put up a fight. You do anything as a parent. I mean, yeah. Dude, I don't get that.
All right. It's just not the way I'm built as a human.
I know.
But
most people aren't, but again, I don't know what that situation's like. I don't know if
we can't answer for this poor family, but
right. But to me, yeah, not a great move, mom. But she's not the villain here, so I don't want to take her to task too much. In April, a 14-year-old girl in La Roque awoke in her bedroom to find a man wearing a strange-looking mask. Though he took it off when the child screamed. And in July of that year, an 8-year-old boy was abducted from his home by a man wearing a raincoat who incidentally assaulted him. I don't know, incidentally, then led him home and left him on the doorstep. Assaulted him and then left him on the doorstep. The attack stopped for the rest of the year, but began again in February 1961. There was an attack on a 12-year-old boy in the Montcochin area in the now familiar fashion, an attack on an 11-year-old boy in the parish of St. Xavier in March of the same year, and a brutal rape of an 11-year-old girl in St. Martin's in April. I chose that paragraph because a few of the things went into some detail. We don't need to do that. You know, the ages and the amount of attacks are vicious enough for you to get the gist of this guy's a fucking monster. He's a beast. I get the name. Although, so the Beast of Jersey, it's one of those, like, you're given this douchebag a kind of a cool nickname. You know what I mean? And from what I've seen and what I read, there's not like a huge following on this guy like some of the other scumbags, the bigger names. So hopefully nobody has a tattoo of this jackass. But I mean, still, Beast of Jersey it's a catchy name that's good for the media only, you know?
Right.
By now, the Beast of Jersey had been at large for over 3 years, and the Jersey police investigations had gotten no nearer to catching him. Feeling pressure from the press and the scared public, Jersey police had summoned help from Scotland Yard. It came in the form of a celebrated member of Scotland Yard's murder squad, Detective Superintendent Jack Mannings. It just sounds like a fucking Jack Mannings.
Yeah.
One of the first actions was to appeal all islanders to turn detective, and then the press were issued with the verbal identikit of the beast. All right. This went as follows. The beast always struck at night, and up to that point had only struck on moonlight weekends between the hours of 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. He appeared to have an intimate knowledge of the island, particularly the eastern areas. He was described as being about 40 to 45 years old, 6'5", with a mustache and of medium build. He was usually described as wearing a low thigh-length jacket or raincoat, which gave off a distinct musty smell, a peaked cap and gloves. His face was always covered, either with a face mask or a scarf covering the lower part of it. He carried a torch with him during the attacks, and his methods followed a distinct pattern. His victims were selected carefully, and the usual method of entry was a bedroom window. Once inside,
By the way, torch, since you're phenomenally bad at knowing what the differences are, a torch is just a flashlight. He doesn't actually have like the lamplighter conversation. I just need to make sure that you know that he's not walking around with like a Frankenstein torch, like a wooden stick wrapped in cloth that's on fire.
That's amazing, because straight up, and I can't even front. Like, I'm sitting here, I was gonna stop and go back and be like, just imagine this like menacing dude with a fucking torch. I was literally picturing this dude with like a fucking fire on a stick. So thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, you're good.
Is that a European flashlight?
Yeah. Yeah, like a lorry's a truck, or a pram is is like a carriage or a stroller.
Right. Right. He would enter through the bedroom window. Once inside, the man was fast and silent, and usually blindfolded and tied up the victim's hands. In each case, a rope was placed around the victim's necks, and they were then taken to a nearby field and suffered a sexual assault, then returned home. The assailant spoke lots during the attacks with a voice that was described as soft and an Irish accent. He had mentioned at various times a wife, a dead mother who had died of drink, and that he had killed before, and often made a point of saying that he dropped either his cigarettes or his lighter. Jersey is not a large island. Indeed, is only less than 46 square miles in total. Jesus, that's like, yeah.
I fucking said that shit.
Yeah, wow. And it stands to reason that someone would have known, or at least suspected someone who matched at least part of the description. Every possible man was looked at. All men with a criminal record were questioned and interviewed, but the beast was still not found. That's pretty fucked. It's pretty horrible just to think that while this is happening to you, like he's having a conversation with you about his life, like he's venting to you, like, and the whole returning them home. It's so weird to me. Like I don't think we've had a not a killer, but a topic or whatever we want to call him, a monster like this who acted this way. Like he would do his horrible deed and then send you home. Like that's really strange to me. I mean, the whole thing's fucked, but it's weird that was his MO, like that he would do that.
Yeah, like most of the time when they got done, the other people that we have covered, subjects, so to speak, they do their thing and then kill you, or kill you and then do their thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he did say. I think maybe that's what I read, is that he had claimed to kill someone, but he was not a serial killer. So yeah, that was a slip on my end.
This is like a date night for him.
Yeah, man, it's weird. You know, like I picture this guy with a day job, and then he just goes out. The whole thing about the full moon, like that's just weird. Like he waits for. You know, I'm like, I think that's media hype personally. I don't think that they, you know,
I would generally tend to disagree. Like basically based on this time period, like the time period, the low population of the island, the remoteness of most of this island, I would say that he's probably doing this on full moons because that way he can see. Like he's doing it for better optics. Like he wants to be concealed at night, but he's using the moonlight as what people have used moonlight for thousands of years, is being able to see in the dark.
Wow. Again, you know, you're giving the guy a lot of credit for being pretty fucking intelligent. So I mean, there were claims saying that he was on his game. So I mean, that would make sense. I never would have been like.
How many years? How many years was this dude in the wind? Like at this point, you said it's like 3 years, 4 years.
Yeah, right. For now 3. Yeah.
Okay, I usually shit on really bad police work, especially at the beginning of crimes, like police detectives or whomever not really paying attention to details early on, which lead to a mass murderer or serial killer, whatever you want to call it, or a serial rapist going on for years and years and years. The Carl Panzram story is an amazing example of that, where none of the law enforcement took him seriously, and he would admit to his crimes.
And he was telling them, yeah.
And they were like, oh, this isn't this guy, whatever. But like in this situation, like this is a small community, like 46 square miles is the size of this island. Everybody knows everybody in this community. So you know that these cops are like working around the fucking clock to catch this fucking guy. So I'm not giving this dude more credit than he's due. I'm just saying, like, there are certain things that I feel like he is doing. Like, you know, they said he was meticulously picking these women, that he, you know, only did it on certain nights. He's just like any other predator in the wild. Like he's using the advantages of stalking the prey that's in front of him, and unfortunately it's these poor young women, you know, it's anybody,
children,
right? So but he's doing it, he's using as many advantages that exist that he can to use as his hunting ground.
Yeah, dude, this guy, well, he is intelligent. He was good at what he was doing, and I don't know if I'm gonna read it here in a second, but they said somewhere in something I read, and I think I wrote it down, that he would stalk the houses of these women for, you know, months, even a year, you know, like, so he was meticulous, and like he started to get to the point where he always wore a mask. And what I think first drew me to this story, or brought me to this story, was literally an image of him wearing a leather face, human skin looking mask. I'll post photos of it. It's really fucking scary and disturbing. But
no, I pulled up a photo, and it's super fucking creepy looking. Like it does. It looks like Leatherface, like,
which is
from
why I
the
think I
horror
clicked on it, and that's probably how I got here, is going, oh shit, a Leatherface story or something, and then it whatever. But at one point, they said that he would get off on fear, and so he noticed at one point that when he would take the mask off, they would get even more scared. So he started taking his mask off, almost in fear of they're afraid now. Oh God, you're gonna kill me because I've seen your real face. You know, like we've seen
Right.
a million stories where now I can tell the police who you are. So he started taking his mask off to instill more fear, which is another level of sick. The dude was on his game, which is not a good game. It sucks.
Yeah.
You know, especially in that small of an area, to be able to get away with this. Yeah, you got to be pretty
And
on
you're
point.
showing your face. And you're showing your face to people.
And you're showing people your face. So that's the thing I don't get, because he started. I think he only did it to children though, like young children. He showed them their face. So maybe that's how. But anyway, let me keep going. Otherwise, we'll be here for 2 hours, 3 hours. The intervention of Scotland Yard was effective in that there were no more attacks for 2 years. The beast had gone to ground. But in April 1963, he returned, attacking a 9-year-old boy in St. Saviour in his family and his familiar MO. Another attack in St. Saviour in November 1963 on an 11-year-old boy was followed, and then he went to the ground again. But he was back in 1964 attacking a 10-year-old girl in the Trinity Parish in July. An attack on a 16-year-old boy followed. In August 1964 in Grouville Parish, and then the beast again went to ground. There were no more attacks for 2 years, and the hunt died down. In 1966, Jersey police received a strange letter from an author claiming to be the Beast of Jersey. It is reproduced as follows. This is pretty crazy. My dear sir, I think that it is just the time to tell you that you are just wasting your time, as every time I have done what I always intended to do. And remember, it will not stop at this, but I will be fair to you and give you a chance. I have never had much out of this life, but I intend to get everything I can now. I have always wanted to do the perfect crime. I have done this, but this time let the moon shine very bright in September, because this time it must be perfect. Not one, but two. I am not a maniac by a long shot, but I like to play with you people. You will hear from me before September, and I will give you all the clues, just to see if you can catch me. Yours very sincerely, Wait and See. Dude's just like fucking with them. I mean, that's some straight out of a movie shit. Like, dude's literally writing a letter going, you can't catch me. You hear the stories of serial killers, or a lot of it's in the movies where they want to get caught. So they, the BTK killer, I think, would write letters to the cops or something. And it was his cry for help, they said. This dude didn't want to get caught. He wanted to fuck with people.
Well, but my real question is, was he actually the author? Like, he hasn't been like stringing the cops along with clues and stuff intentionally until this point, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh, I gotta amp it up again. I gotta kick it up.
Yeah.
However,
well,
if he is the author, he does bring a point to the moon being important. Like he definitely clearly explained.
He basically validated what your theory was.
Yeah, so just saying.
Yeah, you're right. Was the author the beast? It seemed likely, because there was a savage rape on a 15-year-old girl in Trinity Parish in August 1966, as the letter had promised. The attack mirrored the previous ones. The method and the description was of the signature, of the beast. But this time there was a new detail to the attack. Strange long scratches, regularly spaced and always parallel, were found on the victim's torso for the first time in the series. Following this attack, there then remained the longest lull in the series, for there were no more reported attacks for the remainder of the decade. But he was back in August 1970 when a 13-year-old boy was awakened at his home in Valley Devo by a torch shining in his face. Fucking a flashlight shining in his face. Then I shouldn't laugh. This is horrible. I just the picture, dude, and the fact that you called me out on it. What was in my head? Oh fuck! This is horrible.
I thought I'd shut it down early enough that we could have moved past it, but you know.
Sorry, and because of that, I couldn't picture it. There's nothing funny about this. It's awful. The torch was shining. The beast made the boy get out of bed and took him to a field at the rear of the house. He then placed the raincoat on the ground, made the boy remove his pajamas, and then assaulted him. The boy then was returned home and raised the alarm the following morning at 8 a.m., having been threatened by the assailant to remain quiet, because if you don't, someone will harm your mother and father. The boy was very distressed and disheveled, no shit, and offered a description of what had happened that was now all too common. This time the assailant had black spiky hair and a terrifying mask on. The boy also had the same scratches on his face and body as found on the victims in the 1966 attack. Again, the majority of the island was interviewed, nearly 30,000 people. They were all spoken to, but he wasn't caught. Police didn't know at the time, but the man who had terrorized Jersey for so long had less than a year of freedom left. The night of July 10th, 1971 had started as a routine night shift for the Jersey police officers. Okay, I'm not going to read all this, but basically they were at the two cops were at a stoplight, and this car came speeding by, ran the red light, was like swerving all over the road. They started to follow him. Obviously they were thinking the drunk driver or something probably. And then the car ended up, well, it like sideswiped a bunch of people, but it drove on the wrong side of the road and even drove down the footpaths at high speeds. And now it's a chase, apparently. Finally, the Morris crashed through a hedge and came to rest in the middle of a tomato field. The two police officers who rode off their own patrol car as a result of the pursuit gave chase to the fleeing driver of the Morris on foot and managed to catch him after one of the officers got him in a low rugby tackle. The driver struggled wildly, but was ultimately arrested and taken back to the police headquarters. It was only when they got the suspect back to the police station did they fully appreciate just how much of a normal arrest this had not been. When the light of the police station, in the light of the police station, they saw clearly how the man looked and how he was dressed. The man was wearing an old raincoat, one that smelled musty. The cops were like, oh. The raincoat had 1-inch nails protruding from both shoulders and the lapels of the coat. And he was wearing cloth bands around each wrist again that had the 1-inch nails sticking out of it. He was wearing old trousers tucked into socks, carpet slippers, and woolen gloves. A strange sight, as you can imagine, but when the suspect emptied the pockets of the coat, it got even stranger. Removed from the raincoat was a torch with black tape covering the front to provide only a narrow I can't say the word torch now, like fucking ever again. Black tape covering the front to provide only a narrow shaft of light. 2 lengths of sash cord, a peaked woolen cap, several empty cigarette packets, rolls of adhesive tape, and a black wig with stiff, spiky hair. With mounting suspicion, they had at last found the beast of Jersey. The suspicion became overwhelming when they removed the final item from the raincoat. It was a homemade, horrific face mask. Dude got busted for a fucking traffic stop.
Nah, man. What was he running from? Did they say? Like,
I don't think they ever said. I looked because I'm like, okay, so was there somebody in the car? Like, you know, I'm like, what the hell? They never really said anything, which pisses me off. Again, not a whole lot of it. The only information or what people have written in on these few sites that actually give the whole story. I couldn't find much about his like early life as a kid. You know, was he, you know, one of those, you know, rough childhoods? Was he normal? Like, I couldn't find any of that shit. So, unfortunately, the man was Edward John Louis Paisnell, Paisnel. Peisnell, maybe.
Yeah.
A native Jerseyman who came from an affluent family. He was 46-year-old and was a building contractor, well known throughout the island. Well known, Jesus. Married with a daughter and two stepchildren. The only skirt with a criminal record he had was when he served a month's imprisonment during the German occupation of the island in the Second World War for stealing food to distribute to starving families. Come on. His wife, Joan, had run a foster home for children called La Preference and met Peisnell when he helped out as a handyman there. The children knew him as Uncle Ted. Ugh, that's a creepier fucking name.
By the way, don't ever name your kid Ted.
Yeah, ever. No, but Uncle Ted, that sounds creepier knowing his story now than the Beast of Jersey. Who had always had sweets and gifts for them, played with them, and dressed up as Santa Claus every year to distribute presents to the children at the home. Peisnell had married Joan in 1959, but the marriage was punctuated with frequent rows until shortly after the birth of the couple's daughter, when they lived as man and wife in the name alone. Following the separation, Peisnell built an annex onto the house where the couple lived, consisting of an office and a large sitting room. All right, blah, blah, blah. You get it. He, lived a normal life in his adulthood, and they actually the whole like, oh, he was like an upstanding guy, like distributing food. Like, you wonder how long they've been doing sick shit. Like all of a sudden, does something happen where, later in your life, you just start doing this? I don't know what the trigger was. Let me get through this and then you can add anything you want. When questioned about his strange apparel and asked to explain his actions on the night he was arrested, Peisnell gave strange answers. He said he had been on his way to an orgy and had borrowed the car to get there to avoid anyone seeing him and identifying him on the way there. The nails in the clothing, he said, get this, were as a defense against anyone using martial arts to attack him. I mean,
okay.
Okay. He refused to say anything about the mask and the wig, but it was noticed that he had adhesive tape marks on his face that matched tape inside the mask, meaning he had clearly worn it at some point that night. He was locked up for the night, and the police set out to search his home. By now quietly convinced that they had the Beast of Jersey under arrest, what they found there astounded them. In Peisnell's bedroom was found a locked secret room that he had built. Opening it, it immediately struck the police that smelt musty. Inside the room hung several items of old clothing, including a blue tracksuit and an old fawn raincoat, homemade wigs and hats, and false eyebrows. There was a camera hanging on a hook and several photographs of various houses. There were also several items of black magic paraphernalia, a homemade altar, a sizable library about the occult and black magic rituals, and a very large curved wooden sword hanging on the wall. There was no doubting in police minds now the Beast of Jersey had been caught. Unless there were, actually, in another article, the photos of those houses were of some of the victims. That's how. Because all the occult stuff, I was like, that doesn't, tie into anything.
I was getting hung up on that too. I was like, well, wait. Was there something that went on with the crimes that I'm missing? Like, but okay.
No, it was the victims' homes in the photographs. Peisnell was eventually charged on 13 counts, including rape, indecent assault, and sodomy against 6 victims, with all but one being a minor. His trials in November 1971 revealed an obsession with the black magic and one with the most evil men, and with one of the most evil men in history, Gilles de Rais. I actually Googled this guy, Gillesderais.
No idea.
Yeah, so he, Gilles de Rais, Baron Don Rais, was a knight and lord from Brittany, a leader in the French army, and a companion in arms of Joan of Arc. He is best known for his reputation and later conviction as a confessed serial killer of children.
Oh, charmer.
New episode? The
you
dude,
can handle that one.
yeah, the dude was apparently well, yeah, I'm good for a while on the children, but apparently the guy was obsessed with him, and had claimed himself, the most evil in history, and how Paisnel had claimed himself to be a distant descendant of him. Perhaps the crimes of Paisnel were in some way an attempt to emulate the actions of the guy himself, and only stopped short of murder. Paisnel had never explained what motivated him to go out and commit the terrifying and savage attacks that he did. When he was questioned, he was evasive and babbling. The descendant talks of curses, covens, and hints of black magic involvement. Otherwise, he just point blank refused to answer any questions or told police to prove it. There was no question of an insanity defense. It was revealed just how cunning Paisnel was and how pre-planned his attacks were. He photographed houses that he had earmarked as targets to attack children, sometimes years in advance. This explained how he knew exactly which room to go to and how not to disturb the other occupants. Dude, he creeped in their room while like their parents and everybody else was home. These are little kids. Paisnel had kept those photographs as trophies of his crimes. He affected an Irish accent whilst committing attacks, dropped cigarette packets, and gave random misleading details about himself to victims. In reality, these were all red herrings to lead the police away from his trail. He was a native of Jersey and was a non-smoker. He was proud of his crimes and boastful, having wrote the letter to police, which was confirmed as being in his handwriting by Paisnel's wife. The mask was designed not only to disguise him, but to inflict terror on his victims also. The nails in the raincoat were placed in such positions as to injure someone grabbing him. They were designed to help him get away if possible interrupted. Definitely bad, but in no way mad. All right. Catchy. It also emerged that Paisnel had been one of just 13 men on the island who had refused to give any fingerprints during the search for the beast, as was the right of the Jersey resident at the time. Wow. On the 29th,
those 13 people would have been like on the top of my list. Like, we're going to see where you're going.
Yeah, why won't you let us, dude? Like, what's going on? Yeah, well, 13.
I'm not saying that, like, whatever, like, you know, kind of protect your rights or whatever it is. Like, I understand the idea, like, well, if you don't have anything to hide, but I'm also not a huge fan of the idea that we're going to go around and fingerprint every male in one area just because. But I mean, I definitely would say that those 13 people who refuse to give fingerprints, top of the list, baby. Like, you got 13 police officers and there's a full moon coming. Guess what you guys are doing?
Guess what, dude? Stakeout. Yeah. On the 29th of November 1971, it took just 38 minutes for a guilty verdict to be reached against Paisnel on all charges, and he was taken away to await sentencing. He stood in the same court 2 weeks later and stood impassive as he was sentenced to 30 years imprisonment for his monstrous crimes. He was then taken away to Winchester Prison to begin his sentence. He appealed for convictions, but he got denied. So he returned to prison after getting denied to serve out a sentence. He was released in 1991 after being a model prisoner and returned to Jersey, albeit briefly. However, local feelings were still so strong by islanders, no shit, who remembered Paisnel's reign of terror that he eventually was hounded out and moved to the Isle of Wight, where he died of a heart attack in 1994.
It's the Isle of Wight. You've messed this up 2 episodes now.
Oh, I said right, white, yeah. Dick. Since his death, there have been unsubstantiated reports that Paisnel was involved in child abuse, concerned with the notorious the children's home, but there was nothing else that came about. Here's a little quote that I'll read, and I'll end on this. One night I was asleep and I felt the presence in there, and it was Paisnel stood staring at me. He had some kind of mask on him. The Paisnel's house was so eerie. When we were doing the outer building, you would see cats strung up, and you would actually see him strangling cats. I just couldn't stay there any longer. I always sensed that Peisnell was evil. You just sensed that something pure evil was going on in that place. Mr. D. Yeah, I mean, I don't know who Mr. D is. I guess I could. A former resident of the home in the 60s, known only as Mr. D, gave evidence saying that Peisnell had on numerous occasions crept into the home at night through the windows. Like, dude.
Why are you telling the cops this?
I know. So, actually, this is a good way to. Yes, it would appear likely that Peisnell had committed many more crimes than he was charged with and tried for. The attacks that led to the charges Peisnell was tried and imprisoned on or for are the ones that have been detailed here. And who knows just how many more unrecognized victims of the monster there are out there. Yes, Peisnell is long dead now, but the memory of the terror of the Beast of Jersey will never be forgotten. Not by police who searched for him for more than a decade, not by longtime residents of Jersey, and certainly not by his victims. The true crime enthusiast. Yeah, I don't really like that ending, but yeah, man, the Beast of Jersey, Uncle Ted. I hate the fact that he actually got to die free.
Yeah.
Technically, he was not arrested for murder. He himself said he killed at least once, but
okay.
I don't love that ending. But that was the only reason I chose this is because I had not heard that story, and I thought it would be one that people hadn't heard. And there it is.
There was a great deal of that story that I had no clue about. I mean, I pretty much knew about his apparel, like, and I didn't even know to the extent in which it later turned out he was dressed. I just saw the leather face mask and the spiky gauntlets,
the weird hair. Yeah.
One interesting thing, when I was pulling up a photo of him while you were doing your spiel, I didn't do any like background research on it or whatever. But one of the quotes say here, when he wasn't terrorizing people, he played Santa Claus at the local community center every year.
Not just for his kids, he actually did it in the community center. Oh God, I didn't read that. That's horrible.
Yeah, so
just that's the kind of crazy stuff, man. These serial killers that go on for such a long time, long stretches, they do have these alter lives, literally an alter ego. I mean, how else would they be able to survive? You know what I mean? Like, right. That's the creepiest thing is that, man, serial killers are out there, and there were friends. We've said it before, like imagining like, shit, Ted Bundy was my like drinking buddy. Like I didn't know. Oh God,
or your coworker. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right.
Like Richard, like just for reference sake, like Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, like that motherfucker's creepy as fuck looking, but he also didn't last very long, and he was in a very densely populated area. You know what I'm saying? Like like Bundy, like he kind of like, I mean, he held down like a normal job. BTK held down a normal job, like. You know, these dudes would like go off and do this horrible shit and then come home and be like, hey, business trip
happy go
was great.
Yeah, Mr. Neighborhood Barbecue, everybody just, dude, it's crazy that they could go do this horrific shit and then just go home and look at their kids in the face and be Santa Claus. Like, that is fucked. God. Yeah. So another monster, man. This one's pretty cut and I'm sorry. Go ahead. You were lagging there.
This one, like, I feel like there's a huge discrepancy in the information that the police were not given. Like, there are people who are like, "Oh no, this dude's creepy as fuck," like, but didn't say anything.
Mr. D. I'm sorry. Like, if in a place that small. 13 guys didn't choose fingerprints, and one of them has been seen strangling cats.
Yeah, like.
Now, technically, that's not on the cops. That's on Mr. D for not going to the cops, probably.
Right. I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. But, I mean, actually, this kind of reminds me of the story that you told about the Indian guy, the one who was, like, terrorizing the neighborhood and shit.
It was like, the revenge one, the guy who got
So the reason this reminds me of that is like there was like a stigma on the women to report that they had been raped, And it was like, so
Yeah.
like those cultural norms for certain areas is like
Yeah.
why these dudes get away with shit for so long. It's like, oh, well, you know, that's none of my business. I'm not going to say anything. Or like, oh, that's not
Right.
right. And, you know, like he's just a little eccentric. He's climbing in through the window. Like he's wearing a mask, standing over me while I'm sleeping. Like, come on, man. Like,
Come on, dude. Yeah, come on.
like
I
he didn't rape
agree.
you, but it doesn't mean he's not doing fucked up shit. You notice every fucking time that one of these reports come out that somebody else got attacked, this dude was creeping in through the window at 11:30 at night or whatever
Yeah.
with a torch.
Well, where were you at? Now they did say that his home life, the reason I think his wife wasn't talked about a lot is because they were separated, but they were basically for face value. She had gone and said that he had like super low, like, I forget how she put it, but basically he never wanted to have sex. His sex drive was really low. Well, yeah, because he was out raping all the time. But so like she wasn't around him a lot, I have a feeling. So that's why the wife in this situation couldn't call the cops, because she really didn't even know her husband. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of those serial killers they're not married with kids. I mean,
Bundy
I can think of.
Bundy had a girlfriend. Like,
Yeah, he had a girlfriend, but I guess that's different than, I don't know though. Yeah, I mean,
the main dude in the Ripper crew, like he had a wife, like that he did horrible shit to, and she just
she was afraid. I think she was just afraid of him. She's like, if I say anything, I'm dead. But,
I mean,
yeah. Well, anyway, so I think that this guy, yeah, maybe he was kind of slick, but in that small of an area, how slick can you be, dude? If you were well known in the neighborhood, like, I'm sorry, dude, like that, somebody was not digging deep enough. I feel like, you know what I'm saying?
And they did say he came from an affluent family, so
yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one. It went on way too long. You returned people to their home. You took your mask off in front of some of the kids. Like that article didn't read it, or that story didn't really talk about it, but another one I read did. I'm like, how did you get away with it for so long? So other than maybe because he played Santa Claus, it was one of those, there's no way.
Yeah.
Take him off the list. It's not whatever.
Maybe. And I'm guaranteeing you that because of the population in the prison on the island of Jersey is the only reason this dude survived prison. Like,
right.
You drop this guy, the same guy off in an American prison or another country, like, dude would have been dead like 16 minutes into his fucking stay.
Like, quick. Yeah, exactly. They would have had to put him in solitary because otherwise he wasn't going to survive. Yeah, no shit.
Drop him off in Brazil and Pedro.
Damn right. We bring up Pedro a lot, man. We need him for real. The Isle of Jersey apparently needed him.
Right.
But
10 minutes.
All right. Well, 10. That's it. If that.
Right.
Like, go take a leak, dude. It'll be done when you come back.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. So not a happy story, not uplifting after your wonderful one, but I thought it was an interesting story. And although horrific, really horrific, horrible stuff happened, it's not a well-known story, and it's probably because there wasn't technically a body count, so he wasn't called a serial killer. So
just
when people,
a serial rapist and
terror, yeah, Uncle Ted.
Well, I mean, if there's a takeaway from this episode, dude, this episode is a strong push for, if there are like horrible serial crimes going on around you and you see some weird shit, help out, like save some lives, like
say something.
Yeah.
Don't be a Mr. D, Mr. Dickhead. Yeah. Yeah, there it is. That's the takeaway. So it's pretty cut and dry. There's no like, did he do it? Did he not? So, I mean, it's just more of the factual, horrible true story that I wanted to share with with your kiddos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I learned something today. I learned that there's an island named Jersey.
There it is. And I've
It's-
learned that a torch is a flashlight,
there
not
you
a
go.
piece of wood with flames on the end. Oy vey.
Learning is fun.
Yeah, it is. Shit. All right, man. Well, we good on that one? I think we'll put it to bed.
Yeah, man, put that one to bed. I'm good.
All right, cool, man. Well, hopefully next week we'll do a suggestion. At least I will. I don't know what you got going on, but we've got some suggestions building up. And guys, vote. Pick your favorite out of the 4, or pick your top 2 favorites. We'll do it in that order if you want.
Yeah.
So keep the suggestions coming. We appreciate you guys listening. Be safe in this fucking crazy time.
Yeah. Be safe. Be good. Be kind. Whatever the fuck people say to each other. I haven't talked to another human being.
Yeah. Whatever the kids are saying by the time we get out.
Right. All right, brother.
All right, man. Don't be a Mr. D. Good shit.
Yeah.